Hey artists, this video is part 2 of the perspective series. This is building upon what you would have learned in the first video. So if you haven't watched the first video, please go back and make sure that you've watched it, that you understand it. If you have any questions, please let me know. But we're going to build on the information from there. So with this video, we're looking at our point of view again, but this time we're going to advance it, do a little bit more complex shapes. So to start us off, we need our pencil with an eraser, a piece of paper, and a straight edge with a 90-degree angle. And again, there are more complex tools that you could use with this, but we can easily do it with just this. I'm using cardstock, which is just a thick piece of paper, and it has a 90-degree angle, which is what I need to square to the paper. So I'm going to start with my horizon line. If I line up the vertical edge of the paper, I can draw that horizon line again. Remember, the horizon line is my eye level, but it doesn't actually exist, so you don't want to draw it so dark that you can't erase it. Next is the vanishing point, where all of the objects seem to be getting smaller towards. And from there, you could erase the horizon line. I like to keep it just to keep that in my mind. So we did a cube or a rectangular prism, a triangular prism, and a cylinder. So let's do something a little bit more complex. Let's try out a letter. Something that's a challenge for some people is, let's kind of start basic with the letter L. And with the letter L, you can make it as a block letter. And the way that I do that is I'll draw it out using my straight edge, lining things up. And I'll actually just draw that letter out. That edge got a little crumpled. So draw it out first. And then to make it into a box letter, just the same way I drew my rectangle before, I line up the edges and stop them where they need to be closed off. So basically I made the block letter L. So what I'm going to do next is exactly what I've been doing before. I'm going to line up my vanishing point with the farthest corner out, and I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to do that to the next corner. And as I go, I'm getting this corner. Some people don't realize that these corners are important, so please make sure you check every single corner. Now this corner breaks my rule because there's that front face rule that you can't go through the front face on a solid object. If it was a see-through object, we could, but we are going solid for this. So I am not going to draw a line from there, but I can draw a line from these other angles. So it's easy enough to let our objects go all the way back into space. I like to use the letter L because it does kind of remind me of a couch when I close it off. So you could use that if you were making furniture in a room. Just some simple ideas. Now what we have to do, again, this is a more complex shape, so we have to be a little bit more thoughtful about it. With this, I want to use, just like I did before, 2 orthogonal lines at a time. And wherever they meet on the front face, I need to make the parallel line to close it off. So these 2 lines meet right here. So I'm gonna line up my vertical edge and the horizontal edge of those 2 lines on the front face. And I'm just gonna draw a line inside those orthogonals. Now the next set of lines shares a corner, so I know that it has to share a corner over here. I've got this orthogonal and this orthogonal, and they meet to make a vertical on the front face. So again, line up my horizontal to get that vertical line. I want to move it out until I hit that corner, and I can draw that line in. If it helps here, you can start to erase the orthogonals that aren't there anymore. That can be confusing, so I usually save it to the end, but that's up to you. So this next one, again, is sharing a corner. Here's the original orthogonals. They hit and create that horizontal, so I line up the vertical. So I'm lining up that opposite to get that line. Move it out until I I get that corner. And then my very last one, I have these orthogonals right here. They create this vertical line. So I line up my horizontal with the vertical. It does again share a corner. And so I'll draw that out. Then I erase any line that doesn't exist. And I have an L that appears to go back into space. It's not always going to be that way. They're not always going to share a corner, but with this, an L is a good place to start. Another tricky letter would be the letter M. M we can't really square to the paper. We can use a straight edge for it. I do want to use the M as a little trick to show you how to do bubble or block letters really easily. With the letter M, or with any letter really, if you draw the letter small, and then you draw a big version around it, all you have to do is connect those lines, and it gives you either, if you make it rounded, it'll be bubble. If you make it squared off, it'll be block. So interesting thing to note. You could do that with any letter. So if I'm looking for like, oh, the letter S, same thing, little s, big S, and connect those lines. Now, of course, it's not perfect. You can always go back and fix it. We could do that with lots of letters, but we'll go on to do this. So this letter M is above me and to the left. And I'm going to start just the way I've started all my other shapes. The farthest corner out, draw a line, moving my square over until I hit another corner. Now here's an exception to the rule. This can be drawn, but then it hits the front face. So what I do is I draw it until it hits and then I stop. I don't go through, I don't try and continue it. As soon as it hits something, that line stops because it goes behind it. So that's an exception to our rule. And go over, let's see, this corner will go through my front face, so I can't use that one. This corner I can use. This corner I can use as well. I've got that. There are a couple of in between here that I did not get to. So if I look here, I can draw that corner. I can draw this corner. This one will go through my front face immediately, so no. This one I can draw. Just make sure I get it. And it's gonna connect right into the other one. So an M can be tricky because it's got these little peaks in here. So with this one, again, I want to be very careful about where my original lines are and where I'm going to close things off. So I have these two orthogonal lines. Here is the original corner that makes this diagonal line. I'm going to line that up and make my parallel line to close it off. So just between those two orthogonals. Now the next one shares a corner. So if I close off the rest of these, I have this line right here. It has to connect to that line. So if I line it up, move it over, there's my parallel line. And for this one, I am gonna erase these lines as I go because it looks a little bit better, but also it's less confusing. Now we've got some orthogonal lines here. There is an orthogonal line back here. We just couldn't draw it because it's behind, and this orthogonal line as well. Because this object's going that far back in space, we would want it to go equally as far. So it's going from here to here. This one would probably end about here, but we can't see it because it's behind the object. So we don't have to close that one off. This one though, here's a corner, here's a corner. Again, that orthogonal line is there, it's just behind. But because this one is visible, we can see the side of it, we do have to draw that line. And it has to be just as far out as that one would be. And we'll draw that out. So it's the same distance from here as it is from here. So this line is gone. And again, here's where that rule changes because these do not share a corner with the original ones that I drew. so it doesn't share a corner in there. You're actually getting like the inside of it. Up here is the same issue that we have down here. We can't see where it ends, so we're just going to leave it alone. This one down here, it does share a corner. These are our orthogonal lines. Bring that over, draw that out. This is probably the most confusing point, is when they're not sharing a corner, where do you draw them? So you have to be kind of careful about it, watch your angles, and just check for everything. If something doesn't look right, go back and fix it. So, I know that was a tricky one. Here's the letter S, another good one to practice, and it has curves instead of corners. So with this one, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the circle, which is start at the vanishing point and move my square until it touches it, and then bring it over. Now I'm going to continue that, and I'll see right here that would go through the front face, so that's a no. I'm going to bring it over, and there's another edge that doesn't go through the front face, but it does touch it. So once it touches, stop. Do not continue it. Let it go. This one, there's again this edge that comes out. So every time you have that end of it and you can draw a line to the vanishing point, you do want to. This one over here, I did kind of draw a little corner there. And again, those are just edges. They're the farthest out place. With this, just like with the circle and the muscle memory, I want to find the two orthogonal lines, find the curve that closes it off. So it closes off all the way back there, and I'll erase those. We've got some stuff over here. Now this is weird again too, because this, it's connected, but it's connected farther back. So if I'm going to draw this, I have to bring it farther back. This is closer to the vanishing point than this curve. So when it closes off, it has to close off farther back. Down here, it does share a corner. So I do have to line that up and bring it over. And then I have the letter S appearing as if it were three-dimensional, going back in space. So I see the front face and I see the sides of it. So there are tons of different letters you can do. Maybe I'll show you the letter E really quickly because I know that's a tough one. I'm actually going to face it downward because I want you to see the different parts of it. To do this, I'm going to block it out. So I'm going to draw my shape of my E, draw it as a shape. And feel free with this video, if you're like, yes, I got it, then, you know, go on to the next one. This is a good one to practice with. It's a good one to take your perspective learning a little bit further. But if you feel like you've got it, move on. That's fine. Nobody's grading you on this. You just want to learn. So if you're here to learn, then practice as much as you need to, or move on when you need to. So I put this E sideways because, much like the M, it's got these edges to it. So I want to be able to show that because there are a lot of lines that go into this. No. Yes. As soon as it hits, it stops. No. No. All right. So a lot of lines. These lines in particular, people tend to forget. So please make sure you're watching out for, again, every single corner. So again, if I close this off, I look for those two orthogonals, line them up, bring it over, and erase what doesn't exist. So this closes that off, except for that I was not neat about it, so there we go. This one shares a corner. So again, lining that up. And again, lining it up over here, that's important. Bring it over to where it shares the corner. and we're good there. Now this one over here, this would be the original line, but we don't see where it closes off. So we're going to leave that one alone. This one here, we can see where it would close. We also know that this is closer to the vanishing point than that edge, so it has to end a little bit further back. It does have a corner here, so we will make sure that that connects here to here. And then we can erase things that don't exist. Yay. Okay. This does exist. I don't know why that got erased. Don't erase. Come back. Okay. So what you're seeing, this is almost like a hallway. You could walk in between here because of that. So that there. This next one, again, this would be the original line that would close it off, but we can't see it from this perspective, so we leave that alone. We can see this one. So I'm going to line that up again, line this up, close it off. And again, this is the closest to the vanishing point, so it goes the furthest out. This one goes a little less. This one goes a little less than that. We have this one here, lining it up, line that up. It shares a corner, so there we go. And erase the things that don't exist. And then you have this three-dimensional letter that kind of shoots out into space. Looking at it now, again, if there are things that don't look right, go ahead and fix them. I think I put that one out too far, so I fixed that. Keep practicing with this. Let me know if you have any questions, if there are any letters that you're confused about. I'm absolutely here to help, and you can also search on the internet as well. If you do work through any of these, if you try different letters, absolutely send it to me. I hope you are able to make some letters in perspective. Thanks again.